So in this video, I want to share some tips on how Black women can detach emotionally and become more indifferent after burning the cape. And by burn the cape, that of course means basically doing everything I've encouraged on this channel for the last several years. And I did a general video for Neptunian members and patrons on the art of detachment and how to use it strategically. So if you're interested in detachment strategy, check that out. The link is in the description box. What I'll be covering in this video is specifically for the women who have physically detached from the dysfunction in the Black community, but still get very angry or emotional about the reality of things. And be clear, being indifferent or detached doesn't mean that you never care about anything or get upset about anything. Nobody is unbothered 100% of the time. That is just not realistic. This is more about becoming indifferent and detached enough to where you're not giving too much of your attention and emotional energy to the people and the problems that you left behind. This is something I've been actively working on. I'm sure you guys can see the changes on my channel. I'm not fully there yet, I'll be honest, but I am making a lot of progress. And just to clarify, I think it's important to have spaces that analyze the dysfunction because that does help Black women get away from it, whether it be analyzing misogyny, misogynoir, male nature, male psychology, colorism, racism. I think those conversations are good for women who are just now finding the information because that is what teaches them to burn the cape. It's good to have a space that caters to every stage Black women are in, but it's also important not to get stuck in a stage that keeps you in a perpetual state of anger or panic, because why burn the cape and leave the dysfunction physically and then overly consume yourself with it mentally or emotionally? It's just counterproductive. And y'all know I've talked about colorism and other Black issues a lot in the past, but I've always stressed the importance of living your life outside and not allowing these race topics online to consume you. So this is something that I've always done, but as I'm becoming more indifferent and less focused on the Black community, I realized that even I was still too invested after burning the cape. So hopefully the insights in this video will help you get to a place of indifference and emotional detachment quicker than I did, because that is where the true freedom lies for Black women, in my opinion. So the first step to becoming more emotionally detached after burning the cape is accept what you cannot change. I notice after Black women declare that we're burning the cape, we then start obsessively analyzing and calling out the behavior of the people that we left behind. And some women do it just to vent, others do it to recruit or rescue other women. And I don't think anything is wrong with that as long as you don't start sacrificing yourself trying to help other people out of the dysfunction that you got out of. And that is something that was happening to me. I think Black women have to be very careful of burning one cape or putting down one cape and picking up another. And look, it is normal for humans to want to fix problems. And so many Black women especially want to change the world. I was one of those people. But you have to accept that when you challenge the status quo in any way and influence other people to do the same, you are inevitably putting yourself in harm's way. And if you are a Black woman, you're putting yourself in the sacrifice seat. I'm not saying that you can't help at all, but just be very careful and limit the amount of effort and emotional labor that you're putting in when you reach back to help. And something else that I came to realize is that the Black women who need the most help don't usually hear these conversations. The Black women in the hood who have it the worst, most of them haven't heard a single video of mine. And I can guarantee you, the ones who have, they don't care about anything I'm saying. The sexy reds and the Suki Hana type chicks, they don't give a damn about what I'm saying. They don't give a damn about corrective promotion. They don't care about the image of Black women and never will. And that is something I had to accept. And I decided a long time ago to stop trying to make women like that want to improve their image and just focus more on being the example that I wanted to see and also sharing corrective imagery of Black women. But some of us are just too far gone and we have to accept that. This is why I've been focusing more on the Black women who want to level up and who want to thrive. You also have to accept that these Black community conversations are not honest most of the time and never will be honest. And there's no point in wasting a lot of your time and emotions trying to reason with dishonest people or people that can only be honest about certain conversations pertaining to Black women and not others. I learned from doing colorism commentary for the last 9 years that that is a conversation that most Black people will never be honest about. And this especially applies to Black men, but Black women as well. And that is true for most conversations about Black women. And once you accept that most Black people, including Black women, are committed to being a certain way and there's nothing you can do about it, you'll not only remove yourself, but you'll reach a place of acceptance and you'll be able to use your energy on other things. And I'm not telling you to tolerate misogyny or misogynoir or colorism, because I don't at all. But I'm also no longer interested in making myself a bigger target for people who hate Black women, or making myself a sacrifice for those people. And again, there's no point in leaving Blackistan to get away from the dysfunction only to draw it back to you after you leave. That defeats the purpose. And I think a lot of people, when they leave Blackistan, they're still addicted to that dysfunction. If not physically, then mentally. And so you got to be able to check that within yourself. I have learned that you not only have to leave Blackistan physically, but mentally as well. You have to get rid of some of that hood mentality that always makes you want to beef and fight, and stop hyper-focusing on what you left behind and actually leave it there. And I am applying this to myself as well, because I've had a hard time doing this, which is why I've been intentionally shifting the focus on my channel. Engaging in mess and drama from time to time, that's human, but making it a habit is totally different. I'm just not trying to permanently exist in that chaotic space. Another way to detach is find new interests and hobbies, or revisit old ones. Learn what you like to do outside of discussing Black politics and outside of looking at Black entertainment. Find your purpose outside of the Black community. Travel, plan and strategize your life. Start a side hustle and get your money up. Focus on your health, your fitness, and your beauty routines. And I've said this before, but create a whole new Instagram or TikTok or whatever social media app, and don't follow any race-related content so you can give yourself a break from that. The more you start diversifying your interests, the more detached you will become. Another way to detach is focus on your own reality. What is your reality? Not what you hear online, but what is your experience when you go out into the world? You have to ask yourself, how much do these conversations actually apply to me or affect me in my individual personal life? I had to ask myself that question, and the answer is they don't apply to me like that, not in any significant way. I was way too focused on what was affecting the group and making it too much of my problem. Like I said, I was overly invested. My reality is that I am just not around a bunch of this Blackistan stuff that we talk about online. Is it real? Yes. Are certain people contributing to the negative imagery and optics of Black women and Black people? Absolutely. But is hyper focusing on them going to change their behavior? No. And again, what I'm seeing doesn't reflect my reality in any significant way, and it hasn't for a very long time. And the chances of it affecting me are extremely low. I'm also not around dusties. I avoid them like the plague, and I only interact with them in passing and when I have to. I've also accepted that a dusty gonna be a dusty, so what is the point of discussing them all the time? For what? They don't significantly affect my life like that. Now, should I always stay alert and stay strapped and protect myself just in case one runs up? Of course. But I don't feel the need to hyper focus on that and say that over and over and over again. I said it a million times. Protect yourself, Black women. Strap up. Now, with that said, I'm not existing in la la land. I'm not thinking nothing can happen to me. I'm fully aware that the economy is bad and men everywhere are going crazy. I'm aware that a lot of people are struggling. I'm aware of femicide, racism, all the other isms. I'm aware that they are alive and well. However, there are still Black women that are moving up the ranks, getting good jobs, getting married hypergamously, and also thriving in life without a man. Not all of us are struggling, and there seems to be a constant desire in most spaces for Black women to hyper focus on the struggle and the worst possible outcome for us. And it just feels like it's keeping a lot of Black women in constant panic or anger mode. Like back when I started these conversations, I didn't expect to just go around in circles for years. I thought that a critical mass of Black women would eventually make it to the other side, and we talk about what goes on the other side. I didn't think we would be still at like first or second base after 9 years. It's just not what I expected. But my point is, I'm not about to exist in panic and anger mode when that is not my everyday reality. And I definitely think we should be aware of what's going on around us, be prepared for emergencies, stay ready for anything to pop off, but there's no evidence that proves we have to constantly focus on that in every single space that Black women occupy to level up and experience a good life. And this is why I'm a huge proponent of soft life imagery, femininity, and luxury imagery for Black women, because it's a break from all of the struggle and the trauma topics. And it's become clear to me that a lot of Black women hated and destroyed those movements because we want to keep fixating on the struggle and existing in panic mode in every space that we are in. And that is why I have been intentionally bringing more variety to my channel. Of course, I'll still talk about the mess from time to time, but I want to really get back to the level up content. and bring the type of information that I used to share on DDS Magazine to my channel. For those of you who know, you know. So that's why I'm switching it up. I don't feel like we have enough spaces for Black women that don't hyper focus on dysfunction. So another way to detach is avoid online movements of any kind. And I know I just mentioned soft life and Black women in luxury. And again, I love the imagery. And I think it's cool to identify with concepts of a certain movement, but actually joining them and labeling yourself as being a part of the movement, that is usually when the problems come in. And I think movements are good for shifting the culture or getting rid of anything antiquated that is no longer working. And there is a lot of progress and good that come from movements for sure. But it took me being involved in BWE or Black women empowerment to see just how restrictive movements can be, especially for Black women, because 99% of the time they fail. There's way too much ego, or the extremists make the movements insufferable. That also happened with the feminist movement after the first couple of waves, the natural hair movement. Social movements tend to become toxic over time. That is just the nature of them. Even the movements I had a hand in creating got way too toxic and restrictive. The Black femininity movement, hypergamy, Black women in luxury, and again, love the imagery. I love that Black women are raising their standards in men, and that is the good that came out of those movements. But they do have some serious flaws, and I've highlighted them in the past. The online colorism conversation has also gotten regressive, and I've discussed that as well. And I know somebody's going to say, oh, well, Chrissy, how did you contribute to the problem? And yes, I have made mistakes. I have been a part of the problem too. And I've apologized when I was wrong in the past and corrected myself. And no, I'm not talking about being wrong in the videos that I have temporarily taken down. I still meant every single thing I said in those videos, and I did not remove them because I no longer have those opinions. I removed them for completely different reasons. And I'm not sorry for anything I said in those videos. So just be clear on that. I don't believe telling the truth about colorism or having an exclusive space for dark-skinned women is bullying. I don't believe that's wrong. Just like I don't think the spaces that were before mine that were for mixed and biracial people were wrong. I will never believe that an exclusive space for a particular group to address their unique issues is wrong. But I will acknowledge that I have been wrong on other things. Like when I first came to YouTube with my pro-Black talking points, that was definitely wrong. And you know, it's funny because I'm constantly expected to apologize for being wrong and always being accused of bullying, but nobody else has to admit their wrongdoings or how they've bullied or disrespected or criticized people and their platforms and then pretended that they didn't when those people finally respond. The truth is that I'm really not obligated to come on here and keep acknowledging my mistakes over and over again when there are people on here who have never acknowledged theirs, because for some reason everybody seems cool with that. And that's another reason why these movements fail. Nobody wants to be wrong, and there's just too much ego. I see the same thing happening with the decenter men movement and other movements for women. And of course, I think it's okay to care about Black women and women in general and support certain movements, but I recommend doing so from a distance. You don't need to be a part of a movement or a clique to level up, ladies. It's perfectly fine to have friends and community, but it's also important to be self-sufficient and be comfortable in your own company on your level up journey. Don't be dependent on a movement or the leader of a movement. Don't be dependent on any of us on this app giving commentary, including myself. Another way to detach is get rid of anything or anyone that tries to pull you back into dysfunction. And this could be a person or even a page that you follow on Instagram or TikTok. Because trust me, when you separate yourself from the dysfunction in the Black community, especially as a Black woman, they're going to try to pull you back in. And they're going to shame you for leaving or trying to leave, even if they're the reason why you left. That's what some people online are trying to do to me now that I moved on to other content outside of colorism. The same people who bullied me for calling out colorists and talking about colorism are the people who are upset that I'm doing other content. It is just the weirdest thing I've ever seen. And we know a big part of it is they're mad because my videos gave them content. They wanted to keep harassing me over my content or stealing it and copying it to make money. And what the people of Blackistan will do, they'll get mad when they can no longer drain Black women of their resources. So they'll try to pull you back in so they can have access and leech off of you again. Or they will try to make you believe that you're only relegated to Blackistan and you're not good enough for anything else. Oh, you talked about colorism for 9 years. How dare you try to change the subject? But I don't care if you've been in Blackistan for 20 years, 30 years, 50 years. If you want to leave because it's too toxic, you can do that at any time for any reason. If I decide I want to focus less on colorism on my channel after 9 years, I can do that. It doesn't matter how long I've talked about it. Who gonna stop me? See, Blackistan will try to control you ladies, and you can't let them do that. And they'll try to stop you when you try to elevate. Ladies, remember that you are allowed to change your mind. If you find that engaging with certain people or certain activities triggers negative emotions in you or distracts you from leveling up in a way that you want to level up, you can get rid of those triggers. You can get rid of those people no matter how long they have been around. And how other people feel about it does not matter, especially if those people are still in Blackistan, whether it be physical or virtual Blackistan. You owe them nothing. Another way to detach is realize that what you hear online is not always applicable to the real world. For example, in conversations online, Black women are quote unquote gold diggers. But in real life, Black women have very reasonable or very low standards in men. We all know that. So what we hear online about that is just not true. You also can't take a lot of what people online say to heart because it's a lot of people throwing stones in glass houses. Ugly people are calling other people ugly. Fat people are calling other people fat. Broke people are calling other people broke. People lying about their lives are calling other people liars. Grifters are calling other people grifters. Bullies are calling other people bullies. So you just can't get too emotionally wrapped up in what you see and hear online. Go outside, touch grass, and live your life. If you rely on the internet, you'll start thinking all types of things about yourself and other Black women that are not true. For example, it's not difficult for Black women to attract non-Black men in real life. And they're not all the boogeyman the way people make it seem online. Now, should Black women still vet non-Black men? Absolutely. But it's really not as deep as what these people are making it seem online, ladies. It's really not. The cases of Black women getting unalived by non-Black men are the minority. And it doesn't mean statistically that it's going to happen to every single Black woman who swirls. Just like every single high earning man is not abusive. Like these conversations to me online, they're just ridiculous. But if you watch the Black Manosphere or any of these other anti-Black woman channels on YouTube, they'll make you believe that all of this stuff is a common occurrence when it's not. When you realize that a lot of these opinions online really don't apply to the people that you're around or the groups and class of people that you aspire to be around, it's easier to detach from them emotionally. And it's easy for you to just write it off. Because how long we just gonna go back and forth with these dishonest people? Black women, it's time to move on and do something else. So down in the comments, let me know how you've emotionally detached after physically removing yourself from dysfunction. It could be Black dysfunction or dysfunction in general. Also, let me know what you think about this video. Like, share, and subscribe, and I'll catch up with you in the next one.